Whoa, what a big tower. I wonder what's at the top. Hello? What are you doing up here? I would like to eat bugs. Excuse me? Golden bugs. And you need to do that up here? Do you have any? I do have a few. I'll pay. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. Ladies, gentlemen, and dynasty picker-uppers of all ages, with the release of Wo Long just ever so close, right around the corner, we've been playing it for a few days now thanks to the folks over at Koei Tecmo, and this game is really quite fun. That said, there's a lot to it. It is quite mechanically dense, and the tutorials that the game gives you are nowhere close to enough to know everything that is going on. It sort of just throws everything at you, explains 4 of those things, and then lets you work out the rest yourself. With that said, I've got a few tips and just general knowledge type things that I think every single person going in to play Wo Long should know to make your journey that much smoother and more enjoyable. Without further ado then, here are 10 things you should know before beginning Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Number 1. Use your Divine Beast frequently. Early on in this game, you'll be taught about the Divine Beast mechanic. This is a gauge that fills up during combat, and then you can either spend it to buff yourself or to make a divine animal companion do some sort of big cool attack. At the end of the day, this is an RPG with heavy boss moments, and knowing how people play these types of games, 100% I bet all of you will get this mechanic unlocked and then think, okay, I need to save this for the boss at the end of the level and not use it otherwise, or else I may not have it for that boss, and that would suck. And this tip is simply to say, don't do that. Use Divine Beast anytime an enemy is giving you a challenge. If there is a big group of enemies that you want to thin down, anytime an encounter is in a simple hack and slash, basically. The recharge on this thing is quite quick, and even if you do get to a boss with it uncharged, not only will it charge up during the fight, so you can still use it there, but because of the way that this game works, you could also just turn around and kill some random things before going to the boss to charge it up quickly anyways. So use this all the time. It is an incredibly powerful mechanic that I cannot help but imagine people ignoring or just underutilizing. Number 2. Guard? You can guard in Wo Long, by the way. The game never actually tells you that you can do this. It tells you that you can deflect, it tells you that you can dodge, but it never mentions that you can guard attacks. If you hold L1, you will hold your weapon in front of you and guard. If an attack hits you while you're guarding, you will take no damage, unless it is a particularly heavy attack, in which case you will still take a little bit of damage. This will lower your spirit a little bit, but it makes a lot of fights significantly easier if you aren't comfortable with their deflect timings yet. Use it as a learning tool more than anything really, but it is a really effective tool for that purpose, especially as you can deflect while guarding. Number 3. Weight system. Did you know that this game has a weight system? Again, it never actually tells you about this, but in your equipment screen you can see a weight number and percentage when you hover over armor, which will be a different color depending on how much of your equip load you've reached. As you may expect with other games in this genre, the higher your equip rate is, the worse your movement will be, the worse you're rolling, even your run speed gets slower. So keeping this number green is absolutely ideal. If you get it low enough, you can actually reach blue, which is essentially super speed, but of course if you do that, you'll get hit like a truck by any attack that slips by your defenses. Also worth noting that weapons do not affect your equip load at all, so don't worry about that. Equip any weapons that you want, it's just the armor set itself. Number 4.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Deflect, not dodge. This game has a dodge roll, and it isn't entirely pointless. There are definitely moments for it, but the game wants you to deflect attacks. Generally speaking, dodging and deflecting have relatively similar windows of safety, the differences being that dodging also moves you positionally, so you can dodge that way, but deflecting attacks affects the entire flow of the fight. If you deflect an attack, you will gain spirit, and your enemy will lose spirit. When you gain spirit, you can use things like martial arts or wizardry without punishment, and if your enemy loses enough spirit, they will leave themselves open to a final blow. Not to mention the critical system, which incentivizes deflecting even more. So get used to deflecting. It is by far the ideal way to deal with attacks within this game. Number 5. Struggling? Come back later. This concept applies to pretty much the entire game, but more specifically to certain enemies. This game has a morale system where you get stronger the more enemies that you kill within a specific level, and the more you explore within said level too. This resets at the start of every individual level. Sometimes the game will throw a high morale enemy in front of you quite early in a level where it is much stronger than you, but almost always the level will loop back around to this enemy at a later point and let you fight them again on more even ground. This is to say, if an enemy is kicking your butt, find another way through the level to farm some morale, get stronger, and then give them another try. This is essentially an inbuilt difficulty slider for each level of the game, and it's quite a neat mechanic. Number 6. Enemy morale value is visible. To continue on the last note a little bit, sometimes you will want to farm your your morale to get to a higher number before the next encounter. You'll want to get stronger before going into what's in front of you. To do this, you need to just go back and kill enemies over and over until you're satisfied with where you're at. A cool thing to note though while doing this is once you lock onto an enemy, you can see a little pulsing section of your morale bar. This indicates how much morale you stand to gain by defeating that enemy. This can be increased if you hit a final blow, but this is the standard amount the enemy is worth. So if you do resort to morale farming within a level, use this to judge whether an enemy is worth your time or not. Number 7, find your weapon. Pretty early on in the game, after the first boss of the second level, you'll encounter the blacksmith for the first time. She has plenty of features, most of them aren't quite unlocked yet, but importantly she sells weapons. In fact, she sells the vast majority of the available weapon types within the game, by which I'm specifically referring to their movesets. There are multiple variations to each weapon type that have different martial arts on them and scale with different stats, so this could change later on. But these will be the base versions of most of these weapons. As such, when you reach this point you can mess around, find something that you like within the shop, and work out which weapon's moveset really speaks to you, sort of decide your main weapon, really, and you can do it quite early on. Number 8, virtues and paths. This is a big one I've seen people asking about because it is a bit confusing. What is up with the leveling system in this game? I'll have a more detailed video explaining the system in its entirety later on, but I thought I'd go over the basics here to help avoid some heartache. When you level up any virtue, it will raise your maximum health, but wood raises your maximum health by 7 per level as opposed to the 3 health per level from the other stats. Wood also lowers the amount of spirit bar that you lose when you are attacked. It also increases the duration of positive spells on the player and negative spells on enemies. Increasing any virtue will also have some secondary effects, unlocking access to higher level wizardry within its respective path, making that wizardry more potent, and it will also increase your elemental power and resistance in relation to the virtue itself. The fire virtue will raise your spirit gain from attacking enemies, as well as lowering the spirit cost of martial arts. The earth virtue increases spirit gain from deflecting enemy attacks, as well as increasing your maximum equip weight. The metal virtue increases spirit sustainability, which is the amount of time that your spirit bar will stay stagnant if it doesn't gain more spirit, as well as lowering the spirit cost of wizardry spells. And the water virtue will increase your stealth stat, making it easier to sneak up on enemies, and it will also lower the spirit cost for a failed deflect attempt. I know that's still a lot to go through, but to put it simply, if you want an easy time, go into the wood virtue mainly. It scales your HP higher than any other stat does, so you can take more hits, and there are weapons that scale with wood virtue so you aren't ruining your damage. The others are a bit more complex, but there's a lot of interesting builds possible within this system. Number 9, equipment, skills, and upgrading. Once you reach the Hidden Village, which is a main hub within this game you access about 3 hours in depending on boss kill times, the blacksmith will open up more options, including one called embedding. You may have been confused by the way that gear works. The game drops tons of gear on you, a lot of it is copies of each other but with different star ratings or different pluses under its name, but once you get it, it's actually quite simple. The star rating refers to how many skills a piece of equipment has. 1 star has 1 skill, 4 stars has 4 skills. The plus under the equipment refers to its upgrade level. This increases the power of weapons or defensive strength of armor, and this is what you do at the upgrade screen of the blacksmith. Back to the mechanic I mentioned before, embedding. This is how you control what skills a piece of equipment has. Every piece of equipment has 1 locked skill, the first one to list. The others can be removed from one piece of armor, which will give you materials and unlock that effect for crafting, and then you can use these materials to apply that skill to a different piece of equipment. This is how you craft perfect weapons and armor within this game, and it is quite the in-depth system as well. Number 10, wizardry countering. This is a smaller one, but quite a fun one. The game tells you relatively early on about the concept of certain wizardry phases countering others in a sort of 5-way rock paper scissors fashion, but seeing what this actually means in action is really cool. It isn't just weaknesses and strengths against certain enemies. You can literally counter another wizardry spell with one of your own if you predict it correctly. Here is a warlock shooting a fireball. I fire off an icicle in response. The icicle deletes the fireball from existence and then proceeds to hit the warlock. You can literally nullify magic if you have the countering phase and you predict it correctly, which is just extremely cool to me. And that's it, everyone. 10 things to know before jumping headfirst into Long Fallen Dynasty. I hope this video helped you out, I hope you've learned some things, and I hope you have a great time once you get access to the game yourself. Like if you like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.